This is the fourth and last video of our mountain bike riding trip in Payson Canyon during beautiful fall colors. I'll put a card above to the playlist of all prior videos if you haven't already seen them. In today's video, we go on one last ride in the mountains before packing up and heading home, where I share our RV's electrical system stats from the entire trip and a recap of how the electric technology worked for us on this trip to have a ton of fun.
It is now the next morning and it's 33 degrees outside and the inside is 60 now, but it was 50 a few minutes ago, but I turned on the mini split. The trailer's battery's at 30%, but it was at 32% before I turned on the mini split, so it actually went down 10% overnight, whereas the night before it had gone down 1%. And the key difference was that I left the inverters on last night, but there was minimal power draw, so I suspect the majority of that 9% difference was the standby loss of the inverters, and it's 7:39 a.m. We got the mini split ramped up fully and the microwave is running simultaneously. So on L1 you can see we're at 2300 watts, which is pretty high. It's 2400 watts maximum on that inverter, well, on both inverters. And so we're at 3000 watts with the two combined. The microwave just completed and now it's dropped back down, and this is pretty much just what the mini split is pulling right now. We came outside and it's still in the low 30s Fahrenheit. And the girls, of course, want to ride their bikes immediately. And we're going home today, so we need to get as much fun as we can out of these bikes, and then we're going to head home.
I want to do another trail.
Okay. The trailer is right down that way. And as you can see, the sun has begun to hit this general area, but it's not hitting the trailer yet. But it's quite cold, but the sun feels really nice. So we're basically just riding around this area where there is sun. Oh, and James is here with me on the Talaria. We found a new place to explore, and this is just beautiful. The sun is rising through these big, tall evergreens, and we're just exploring new terrain, places we've never been. Clara's gonna do this water crossing. Go ahead. Yep. Oh, good job.
What?
Are you gonna do this water crossing? There you go. Go, Lucy. Yeah. Oh, her battery died right when we got to the jumps. Lucy's battery's dead, so she's just using her bike as a strider bike, and she's coming over the jump very slowly. There you go. Clara was going across and hit straight into a big rock and then stopped.
Push your bike.
There you go. Okay, now Lucy, you're lapping it up. Now you show us how it's done.
Clara, you can go take off your socks and
Lucy's battery is almost dead. She keeps turning it off fully because sometimes it restores a little bit of voltage. Okay, that works great. We just got back to the parking lot and we're finally back to the trailer basically. How do you feel, Clara?
My hand.
Your hand hurts. Yeah, she had a little bit of a wreck and she had to stride all the way back, so she's tired. We're back from our morning ride and the trailer's at 27%. We're getting 1352 watts of solar and our inverters are doing almost nothing, and it's 10:51 a.m. You have been riding these bikes for just over 2 days. What are your thoughts?
I love them. I love them.
You love them? Mm-hmm. Great. Do you have anything that you would change?
No.
No?
Except maybe that they would go faster.
You'd like them to go faster? Anything else you would change?
The brakes to be easier.
The brakes to be easier? Do you all agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Those are great points, Lucy. I was going to make those points as well. So looking over here at Lydia's first, this is how dirty hers has gotten.
Not that dirty.
Well, a little bit, but yeah, not terrible. And so a couple of things that I would point out. The brake lever. So Lucy pointed out that the brakes are not good, or they're too hard to pull. And if you look here, these are kind of, cheap plastic levers, and they're much more difficult to pull, especially for a kid, and their grip strength, its capabilities, than say my Talaria over here, which has obviously nicer hydraulic brakes, but the pull on here is just like almost nothing compared to theirs, and yet they have minimal grip strength abilities. So these brakes, while I would love for them to be hydraulic, maybe that's too much, but I don't know, even just their fingers being able to reach out this far to pull this back is a lot for a little kid's hand. And so initially Clara was having a pretty hard time with her bike, and I had checked all of their adjustments, and hers was just for some reason weaker brake. So I actually had her switch with Lucy because Lucy's older. Bless you. And Lucy has better grip strength, so we actually had Lucy and Clara switch bikes so that Clara could stop better, and it's been great ever since then. The things that I would point out as well, back here on the back of the seat post, this is the battery, the seat post is, there's this connection. I haven't had any problems with that, but it is clearly an area that gets filthy because the back tire is spinning right here. And we've driven through water and stuff, and I hope this is a waterproof connection, because if it's not, that might be a problem someday. And then also, looking down here on the bottom, there are some cables that go across here. And right here, there is a clip. I thought it was a zip tie at first, but it's not. It's actually a clip. And there's 2 points for it, here and here. And on 2 of the bikes, one of these clips was missing. And so as we were riding down the trail, this kept making a tapping sound that was really annoying. So I added zip ties to that. Okay, so let's come over here and talk about the fact that these have disc brakes. So I think this is fantastic. You can see right here. So they're mechanical disc brakes. They're not driven by hydraulics. You can see this is a lever here. And I love that they have disc brakes. However, it's more of a disc brake. It's only on the back. The front has no brakes. And I'm not really sure why they don't think kids' bikes could use 2, because we were going down some really steep, loose trails around here, and when their back brakes lock up, they really could use front brakes. Would you have been able to use front brakes too, Lucy? Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Clara?
Yeah.
Yeah, all of them. So these really should have brakes on front and back, in my opinion, for really good trail riding. As it is, whenever we got to a pretty steep part in the trail, I had to have them slow down quite a bit so they can make sure to stay in control. And even then, some of the trails were steep enough, it was kind of on the edge of the back tire's ability to keep them from speeding up. This is the main power button, and then next to it is the charge port. I like that it has a dust cap, and the kids haven't had any problems with that. They've been able to pop off the dust caps, and they've been plugging in their own bikes just fine. I do find it a little silly, though, that there is a power button, and then over here there is an on button, and then up here is a park button. And so they have to actually push all 3 buttons before they can start riding. And that seems like overkill to me. I mean, 2 should be fine. The other thing that I would point out is just the battery length. So right here you can see that it has 3 green indicators. And there is a 4th one down here that's always blank. And girls, have you ever seen that show anything?
Nope. I've only seen it like red, like really fast, like flash.
Okay, so
Flash
it flashes red, I guess, yes. I haven't seen that myself, but that's misleading. At first they thought that they had 4 bars of battery, but they only have 3 of battery, and then when it gets empty, then it's blinking at the bottom. I guess that's okay. Personally, I would much prefer a more granular readout of how much power they have, but I guess for kids it's good enough. 33% increments basically. And then just as far as the battery longevity in general is concerned, this morning as a test, we went out riding up the trail, and it's almost entirely uphill, and we rode for 2 miles, just under, I think it was 1.97 miles, and the batteries were cold. They were charged last night, and then they were sitting out in the truck, and it was 33 degrees this morning. And so they were cold, and they actually went all 2 miles, but died right at the end of the ride. And then they were riding back on their bikes like Strider bikes. So that's what's kind of nice about these is if the battery dies, they can still just scoot along with their feet. If they were pedal bikes, they could also pedal as well. But these are light enough bikes that they are able to just use them as regular Strider bikes when they want to.
But they're also very heavy.
They are heavier than a normal Strider bike would be, that's true. Okay, thanks girls. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I would like there to be like an indicator to show how many miles per hour you're going.
Oh, it's a speedometer.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been riding with me on the Talaria, and she really loves the speedometer, and she wishes she had that. I guess the one other last thing that I would add is the speed selection tool right here. The kids can easily access this, and it's just kind of on your honor. If we tell them to be at a certain speed, they can easily just flick this. I kind of wish there was a way for us to have a parental lock on this, and there isn't, that I'm aware of, that I've seen. Our kids are good enough now after 2 days of riding that we just let them use whatever speed they want. But that's the thing.
That they had a kickstand.
Oh, yeah. The girls wanted a kickstand right away, and they don't have one, so they just have to lay them on the ground.
So we can just have it like standing up, so we don't have to just lay it on the ground. And then pick it up with our hand, we can just hop on it.
One other thing that I would add is tire pressure. Initially they came with about 4.5 to 5 psi, and I bumped them up to 10 psi erroneously, just assuming that they needed more, thinking they were mostly flat from the manufacturer. In hindsight, though, I found them that they were bouncing off rocks and kind of losing control a little bit because of the bouncing tire, and it was a harsher ride for them. They're not heavy; they're all less than 50 pounds. So I actually ended up letting out the air and bringing it back down to about 5 psi on each of their tires, and they've been doing better. The tires don't bounce as much, and they have a nicer, softer ride. And frankly, I did the same thing on my Talaria. I let out a lot of air, and I have 7.5 psi on the front now and 10 on the back. And initially I was trying 20 on both, and that was way too harsh. These are really fun kids bikes, and they've been able to keep up with me. I mean, I can go way faster, but it's been fun that they've been able to go on trails with me, and I've been able to show them a lot of beautiful scenery. The girls found that with their power tires, they can spin logs. One other thing I just remembered is torque. When they're going up a pretty steep hill, it doesn't matter if they're in 1, 2, or 3 speed selector mode. These bikes max out on how fast they can go, and they don't go crazy fast up the pretty steep hills. With the Talaria, as an example, maybe it's not a fair comparison, but it can go just as fast up hills as down, and on theirs, when they get to a steep hill, it gets down to this crawl mode that they can just barely go up it, a couple miles an hour.
I was on number 3 and going full throttle, like full throttle.
Right.
And it was still going really slow.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's the tuning or if it's the battery and its ability to put out amperage or what, but when they get to a steep hill, it just barely crawls up the steep hill, and if it's steep enough, it'll just torque out, and it just stops moving. She has to push it up. In conclusion, we are really glad that we bought these. I think the kids are obviously having a blast, and I think they're a ton of fun. And I'm really glad that we were able to go out on trails as a family, and each of them can be learning the skills of mountain biking, and eventually they'll move on to a bigger, more capable bike, of course. But these have been really actually quite good. And we'll continue to test these in other terrain. This is mountainside single track, so more rough and extreme terrain actually than what they'll experience in the city, as an example. And they'll probably get more range there as well. And then one other thing that would be nice would be more range, frankly. The speed of them is fine, but more range would really make a big difference. I mean, my Talaria and my mountain bike both have a lot of range, and these are very much the limiting factor. They're like a tenth of the range, if less than that actually. I like that they are more like bicycles than motorcycles, a replica appearance. We can use them in more variety of situations, and they're not as likely to be restricted. I love that they're quiet. All of us are on electric, and we're going up the trails, and we are just as quiet as the people riding horses. If you have any questions, feel free to post those in the comments below, and I will answer them based on my experience with these. And also, I will put a link in the description below to these bikes if you're interested in picking them up for yourself. As you can see, we are bringing in the slide out, so we are packing up the trailer to head home at the conclusion of this trip. I'm going to go inside and just give one last update on the power system. As you can see, I've been charging the Talaria and the other bikes off the trailer, and it's been working great for that. The battery on the trailer is up to 41% currently, and we're getting 851 watts of solar. But you can see we're actually running a negative 10 watts, negative 5, because all of the energy from the solar is going to the Talaria, and the difference here is basically efficiency losses of the inverters, I believe, and also the DC power that's being pulled right now. Looking at the water, we're down to a third of the tank remaining. We could probably be here for a few more days with that amount of water, so we got plenty of that. What did you girls think?
I loved it.
Awesome.
Did you have so much fun?
Wait, no, I didn't like it. I loved it.
You stupendous it. Lydia loved it, and Lucy, what did it?
I loved it.
You loved it. Show me your excitement. All right. All right, we got about an hour drive ahead of us, and then we'll be home. This canyon road is quite steep up and down, and it has a lot of tight corners. It's generally not too bad to drive, but there are a couple of places where it is really narrow and on sharp corners, and so you have to be really careful. Before getting home, I'm dumping the tanks at a nearby free dump station. This trip was relatively close to home, so reporting the gas is not terribly important. I mean, we only drove for about 125 miles total. We used up 16.8 gallons, and at $3.29 per gallon, we spent $55.64. So not really a big deal. That's at a miles per gallon of 7.4, which is definitely not great, but considering we were going up a very steep grade into the mountains, it's relatively unsurprising. In the future, when we have an electric truck, we will be able to bring it here without any problems as far as towing range is concerned. But obviously towing range is a big issue with the electric trucks these days. They need bigger batteries in general. We'll maybe still try it someday, but as it stands right now, we don't have one, so because none of them seat 6. So we're getting by with our gas truck, and it's okay, but not what I would love to have long term. Our Ford F-250 here does not get very high gas mileage when we are towing our travel trailer. And so sometimes we will bring along these 2 larger gas cans to increase our range when we're on a trip where we need it. And sometimes I'll use it to offset the cost of gas because we'll go into remote locations where gas is a lot more expensive. This right here is just for our lawnmower. So a shop on TikTok sent us these gas can spout replacements, because anybody who has used these spouts that come with these gas cans knows that they are horrendous to use. They're straight and rigid, and when you press the button here, which is hard to do with one hand, then it pops forward constantly. And when you're trying to put the gas here into the truck, the length of it is not long enough to go here and make sure it doesn't spill out. And also, when I'm putting the gas in the truck, the nozzle isn't long enough. So if I elevate it completely to the point where I'm trying to get the tank empty, which right here is the highest it will go because the front of the tank is hitting the side of the truck, I can't get all the gas out of the tank. And also, because there is no makeup air, it is very slow to put gas into the vehicle. These gas can spout replacements are better because this is a flexible hose and it doesn't have any annoying locking mechanisms, but it does have a screw-on lid, so that's good that it can be secure that way. And then it has these makeup air nozzles here on the end. And it also came with this drill bit that is the right size for these. So I'm going to be drilling some holes into these gas cans, putting these little makeup air inlets on the back of them. And then also it came with some rubber grommets here to make sure that those are adequately sealed. And also, while you're at it, I recommend taking out this filter in here because it's awful when you're trying to refill this at a gas station. You can't do it very quickly because it just keeps filling up the filter and coming back out. So all you have to do is wedge a flat screwdriver in here between the side of the tank and the filter itself. And that just gives you a little bit more room to be able to slip in some needle nose pliers, twist, and it'll shrink it smaller, and then just rip it out. Just like that. After drilling the hole, take this cap and put a rubber seal on it and then just pop it there in the hole. And now we're good to go. And now that I've installed that, I can pour straight into whatever I'm pouring into, and it's just a complete, uninterrupted, full stream at full speed. The larger rubber grommet goes here into this lid to make sure that the tip is fully sealed when you have it on like that. And then also you can reverse the stem, and then you can use that same cap and put it on just like that with that over it, and then you screw that on. And now you've got a tight seal and you don't have the spout sticking out. And then also when you are pouring the gas into the truck, it doesn't have that annoying emergency catch that pops off. And this is also flexible, and it allows the gas can to tilt more so that you can get most of the gas out of the gas can. When you're drilling these air intake holes, make sure not to get any plastic debris inside the tank. Be careful when you drill it, and make sure it doesn't just pop in with a bunch of small pieces of plastic on the end of the drill tip. And now this is what my gas tanks look like, and they are vastly superior in operation to what they were before. And obviously someday, once we get rid of our gas truck and we're able to have an electric truck, we won't need these anymore. And then also when we get rid of our gas lawnmower someday, we'll have an electric lawnmower, we won't need any of these gas cans. But in the meantime, these are vastly superior to what they were before, and they are going to be much easier to use. And we have all of these old parts that I'm just going to throw away. And then the package came with these extra ones because there sometimes are different threads on gas cans, I guess. And then I guess if it already had an air intake nozzle, this is a new cap for it. I don't know. I didn't find a use for those. I will put a link in the description below where you can pick up these gas can spout replacements for yourself. And just like that, we're back. I just wanted to give one quick update on the trailer. The battery is at 60%, and you can see it's discharging into the Tesla right now. So the Tesla is pulling 5 amps at the moment,
and we're just getting a little bit of the solar remaining in the day.
This graph shows the electrical system from our travel trailer, and this is from the first day of that trip. The blue line here is the state of charge of the battery, and each hour is indicated by one of these diamonds. So you can see throughout the night prior, there was almost no change in the battery, and then as it was charging right here, then that's where this blue band shows the state of charge at the beginning of the hour and the end of the hour. The orange columns here, that's the solar production, and then the red columns are the energy consumption through the inverters only. This graph does not show any of the electricity consumed via DC power only. If you look down here, you can see that the consumption for the whole day was only 2.5 kilowatt hours, and the solar production was 8.9 kilowatt hours, and that's why it began the day at about 38% and then ended the day at 79%, I guess, at the end there. And so I was letting the battery charge up while we were getting ready to go on the trip, and then we drove there and then started to consume electricity, and that's kind of what you're seeing along here. And then we ate dinner, and then there was a spike here, and then the state of charge of the battery kind of tailed off as the evening progressed and we were in bed asleep. We left the mini split on. If we move on to the next day, you can see this constant energy consumption is from the mini split being on all night. And then there was this spike in the morning from breakfast, and that, I guess, lasted, and the mini split as well. It warmed up the trailer, and then the battery bottomed out at 29%. Keep in mind we were cooking pancakes on the induction cooktop and things like that that we don't have to do. We have other things we can eat for breakfast, but if we're trying to consume a lot of electricity, those are the types of breakfasts that we eat to do so. My goal is to keep the batteries on the trailer from fully charging, like at all times, all year. And I do that when we're not camping by just discharging it into our Teslas. But when we're camping, I'm also trying to keep it from completely filling up because I just want to see how much electricity the solar panels of the trailer are capable of producing. And I will probably just keep doing it long term anyway because I want to utilize the electricity that these panels can produce. I paid for them, might as well get some benefit out of them. And so you can see here that there was some random consumption throughout the afternoon, and the battery kind of peaked out at, I guess, 63%, and then ended the day at 53%. The consumption for that day was 7.8 kilowatt hours, and the solar production was 7.9 kilowatt hours. And it was this first full day there that I realized, hey, the spot that I parked isn't ideal. There's some shading from trees. I didn't judge that very good, but that's okay. We have a larger solar array than is necessary for this trailer, so we'll make it work, and we're doing just fine, actually just kind of staying in the middle. If we move on to the next day, you can see we also stayed along in the middle here. There's some pretty high, and I left the inverter off that night just to try to conserve electricity because I recognized the limitations we had, and we didn't really need to have the mini split on all night anyway. We just have blankets and such enough. And so you can see kind of what happened throughout the day here. We used a lot of energy as we were cooking things on the induction cooktop and in the convection microwave here at the end of the day. Our consumption was 6.3 kilowatt hours and the solar production was 7.7 kilowatt hours. And then we look at the last day of the trip, and you can see we had minimal energy consumption throughout the night, but I did leave the inverters on. I just didn't leave the mini split on. Then we have breakfast going on right here, and I think we were heating up water for oatmeal that morning, and we bottomed out at 19%. So we're kind of trending down throughout the trip, that's for sure. And then along here, we actually had some pretty good solar production for a good chunk of the day, and that's these orange bars once again. So that was helping to pull the energy up. Now, whenever you see these spikes here, I forgot to mention these on the other days. Those are likely when I was charging the Talaria, or the e-bikes in general, but the Talaria by far is the biggest energy consumer. So here I was consuming a lot of energy, and that was going into the Talaria right here, those red bars. And then we drove home, so that's where the energy consumption dropped off to almost nothing. And then it spiked again, and that's when I plugged in our Model S to the trailer's electrical system at home and consumed for about 2 hours there before turning off the car from charging, and then the state of charge of the battery just stayed at 44% for the rest of the day. So you can see here the consumption was 5 kilowatt hours and the solar production was 7.6 kilowatt hours. Overall, the trip was a great success. We had a ton of fun, and Payson Canyon is definitely a place we're going to be going back to after this trip. It was a really fun symbiosis to be able to have the bikes, all of them, be able to charge off of the trailer. And then with that electric assist, it really opened up a world of possibilities of we were just exploring all kinds of trails around the side of the mountain that we wouldn't have been able to otherwise. Now, I recognize there's plenty of people in there with regular traditional bikes, and they were riding around on the trails. But with young kids especially, I don't think we would have been able to get, I know we wouldn't have been able to get as deep up there into the mountains with regular bikes. And these e-bikes, these new saddlebacks that they have, they were able to twist the throttle and put their feet out, and even though they're bouncing off of roots and rocks and ruts and stuff, they're able to power up and through way rougher terrain than they can do with their traditional pedal bikes. So that was really fun. I wish that these saddlebacks had a longer range, because the Talaria has much more range, and so I was very much limited by what they were able to do. And at first I thought that maybe the range would just be sufficient for their willingness to ride, but what I found was they actually wanted to ride a lot longer than the batteries of the saddlebacks. So we had to take them back to the trailer and charge them up, and what's funny is they would plug them in and then they go do something else for a little while, and then they get really excited and want to ride again, and they just go unplug them and go ride them again. So I have no idea if they were getting fully charged. They probably weren't, but they would get another, half an hour of riding out of them before they die again. They'd plug them back in and wait for a little while, and they just, the charge time was a limiting factor. Is that a huge deal? Not necessarily. These are, beginning bikes for young kids, but if they had longer range, we would have utilized that range and we would have gone farther up into the mountains with those bikes. Now, since I have my Talaria and the kids can ride it with me, and I have those new handlebars that I added, that was a huge boon, a ton of fun. I took all 4 kids at different times, and we'd go on trails way up in the mountains, and we saw some beautiful views. It definitely opened up a whole new world of possibilities having these e-bikes with us, and we'll be taking them on future trips for sure, and it really opens up our ability to explore the area that we're camped, and I'm really excited about that. So in the future, you'll definitely be seeing more of them. As I pointed out, the place that we parked the trailer ended up having more shade than I realized it would, and I should know better, but I made a mistake in that regard. But we do have enough solar panels that we got by, and we didn't end up needing to move the trailer, and it was more work to move the trailer than we felt like it was worth. So we didn't, and we were fine. We did have to pull back on our electrical usage a bit, less hot water heater, and also we turned off the mini split at night, and then we'd just turn it on in the morning. And we put on more clothes at night, and we were all just fine doing that. Nobody complained, and the girls seemed to be totally warm during the night, and James didn't wake up and he didn't complain, so we're good that way. Throughout this whole trip, we never used any generator, so we didn't use any propane or gasoline for electricity or any other purpose. Literally the only fuel that was burned was the gas in the truck to get us there, and the rest of it was all electric, and it was all from the solar panels of the trailer as well. I hope this has been helpful, seeing how this electric technology is working in our lives, and if you have any questions, feel free to post those in the comments below, and I will respond as quickly as I can. And with that, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. The girls are doing a race. So they just started, and they're racing to see who can get to where I am first, and there's a white line next to me that I'm using as the finish line. Oh, Clara's going wide. I can't really get Clara on camera. Oh, Lydia won! Good job, Lydia. You having fun, James? Yeah, he's like, I want to race.
Lucy's winning! And Lucy won!
Oh, Lucy won!